Boys and girls, welcome back to the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital. That's Washington, D.C., to you and me. It's amazing what you learn when you give an opportunity for individuals to speak. And earlier last week, Joe Biden made a comment regarding the black vote. And in that particular comment, he made statement to the fact that quite frankly, you're not really black if you vote for Donald Trump. Now, that sent irreparable repercussions throughout urban America, as it was a statement that was equally comparable to the one that Lyndon Baines Johnson made many years ago regarding the Civil Rights Act, that he would have those niggers voting Democrat for the next 200 years. I have with me tonight a very sincere and brilliant woman, Sheila Scott Griffin. She's running in the Congressional District 13 of Florida for U.S. Congress, U.S. House of Representatives. You can find her at Vote Griffin 2020. I wanted to get your thoughts regarding this, Sheila. Were you shocked at all by the statements that were made by Joe Biden?
I wasn't just shocked. I just could not believe these words were uttered. That somehow or another, the color of your skin means that I'm going to vote for you without the proof of your service and without content. That just cannot happen. I find that we are so taken for granted as a population of people. I remind people that we're brown and black, but we're from every nation. And we are very different in cultures and backgrounds.
Now, in regards to this, a lot of people would say that the GOP doesn't reach out to black Americans. And so there's not a frame of reference for any of this. But you and I both grew up during the civil rights movements, and quite frankly, we understood that there were those who were taking advantage of the Democrat Party to take advantage of black people. If you would, have you found a change in the South since the beginning of the civil rights movement? Well, not the beginning, but the 1950s, 60s civil rights movement, in which the liberal factions of America began to integrate into that particular movement.
My disappointment is this. Rhetoric alone has shifted us without proof. The Republican Party is the only party that has issued any civil rights actions. I was a civil rights monitor for the Department of Justice, checking and tracking some consent orders and judgments here in the Middle District. When you track the history for women, voting rights, women's suffrage, or any civil right, we not only wrote them, but then we had to have a majority vote for them. The Democrats have never at any time put into place anything that empowers. They believe in subjugation. One step from slavery is called sharecropping. I will give you something that they call a housing program, but I will not give you a home or loans. I will give you jobs, but I will not support you in building businesses. These kinds of things are absurd and they cannot be tolerated. When you have good policymakers, it's not by their color. It's by whether the things they prescribe produce productivity and success for every member of society. And that's the thing that was alarming to me, that Joe Biden would speak as though somehow he had initiated any legislation that would empower and make us great. That had never happened. And I tracked each person's record because I'm not a television buff. I don't mind watching television, but I go to look at the paper. What did you really do? And what did it really say? And that's why I began to talk about the things I've been tracking. I tell people, I wasn't a Donald Trump fan.
Yeah.
So it makes a difference when you begin to be honest about who's helping your children.
Now, Madam Griffin, I have to ask you here, what policies are the GOP submitting before? What are you submitting to the good people of the Congressional District 13 that would be cognizantly different from what they can receive from the Democrat Party?
Right now on economics, I'm going after some interesting things related to what's happening with opening here in Florida. Florida, we have some unique things. Our governor has been proactive, and I'm really grateful for that. But when it comes to education, I'm after changing the laudable things that they claim Head Start does and making it an education program. If it does not merge with the Department of Education, our lowest wealth members that are in the United States can no longer become a caste, C-A-S-T-E, system of poverty, in poverty. So I want to make sure that when we talk, that we are moving actually to increase the ingenuity and creativity of every single child and their parents to have access. That's not happening. We got to remember how much money Head Start gets.
Yes.
And they get it to maintain a subclass of people.
No.
Once they're in school, required by first grade.
Now, you're one of the few
people. Now they're in ESSA.
Now, you're one of the few candidates I've actually heard utter something I've said on the air for many years, that Head Start is a tool of denigration to the academic success of black students and not the uplift of those out of poverty. Can you speak to some of the reasons that is true?
When a home, let me give you an example.
Yes.
I had a young godson who just wouldn't tolerate being taught phonics. So we put in a START program, mother and grandmother here in Pinellas County. That home was shut down, but it was turning out children who all went into gifted because they had to hide the books whenever the Head Start people came. But their house was shut down because they would not comply with those rules. What that does is by the time a child laterals into a public or private school, they're already in the slowest group. Because in the other schools, we have something else here called BPK where the children are learning. We have private schools where the children are learning. So when these children finish coloring and socializing, they have no clue what the sounds of letters are. They have no literacy at all. So we guarantee another pool of money and we put them in ESSA. So they're now never in the regular classrooms. They're actually moved out for over half of the day and then brought back, and we wonder why this child didn't succeed. Weren't they in the same classroom? They were not in the same classroom. And by the time we get to fourth grade, we already know that African American males in particular shut down if they don't have success. And so we've already created a system where they are not going to be successful. Now, it doesn't just happen to African American males. Please remember, the Appalachians and the mountains where people are impoverished, they're having the same difficulty because the target is those who lack money.
Exactly.
These same people, they will use them in a prison industrial complex, but they were not able to use them in regular jobs. It's a built-in. This was one of the first things that I thought was so intrinsically systemic. It was built right. And unless something is done about it, The rest will not matter. We'll keep getting these crazy numbers.
I love it because you're saying, in a sense, that a federally sponsored program can literally be traced to a pathway to the prison system, and that there has to be an alternative. Should states come up with their own programs to opt out of the Head Start program?
Right now, because I'm pushing for federal, I'm pushing for a merger of the mandates of the Department of Education to be within the Head Start program, and or some type of merger of some of their procedures. Head Start takes care of food stamps. It takes care of healthy kids and making sure those kids are checked on. When it was first implemented, it was by 2 doctors who were working with mentally handicapped children.
Yes.
So it was going to help moms who had to go off to work because their loved ones went off to war. So it was a laudable intention, but as we have progressed in public education, that intention is no longer valid. It is arcane, and it is very harmful to communities.
Indeed. Now, you are a brilliant woman. I got to have you come back on my program because we could talk about a number of subject matters without being hedged to one, because you're, as a congresswoman, going to be required to do that. The issue regarding Head Start goes along the lines of having too great a bureaucracy in government that intervenes into the daily lives of Americans, i.e. the crisis known as coronavirus. I wanted to get your insights in terms of your thoughts regarding the federal and state responses to the coronavirus, which should have been done differently, in your opinion.
I think that when something is unknown, it's appropriate to put in emergency orders immediately. Let's get our arms around it. Let's figure it out. The day that the emergency no longer exists, they said when the curve begins to flatten, your rights for an emergency declaration are over as government. The citizens' rights never change. They never move. That's why we don't make citizens evacuate if they don't want to when a hurricane's coming. If you want to stay there, that's your right. If you want to be if you want to get vaccinated for the flu, that's your right. But what the government is saying is that the government is sovereign and the people are not. But the rights are inalienable. The First Amendment rights are inalienable. We are a sovereign people. So once you know that the emergency declaration is over, you need to give a prescript for how to function, and that's it. You don't get to arrest people or tell them their businesses don't qualify when they spray down everything. They're using gloves and they're using masks. It's the most absurd thing in the world. Or tell people, oh, you can't use your own tennis ball. There's some things that when I first started, I know we're joking about it.
Yeah.
I remember when they first started, they said Purell kills coronavirus. Then they said if you sip water during the daytime, the molecules go to your stomach, that'll kill coronavirus. Then they said the increased heat above 78.8 will kill coronavirus. So I kept listening for ways to kill it, right? I'm like, sunlight kills coronavirus. So when you shelter in place and you're in one of these hot temperatures like we are here in Florida, that's the most absurd place to be. That's why in New York they come on and say 50% new cases are shelter in place. Why? There are things that are natural, whether it's zinc, whether it's vitamin C. There's things that we can build immunity and antibodies with. Exactly. But we have to be allowed to be people of ingenuity. I love the kindness and all that, but government has become authoritarian and is overstepping its bounds severely.
Now, I know that you're running for Congress, but would it, in a sense, be a difficult thing to address whether legislation at various states, we'll just say various states, not just Florida, should be submitted, curtailing the emergency powers of some of these particular governors and legislatures?
It is up to the citizens of each state. I'm a nut for making sure the states govern. That's why I believe that President Trump did what was right.
Hmm.
He basically put some the dual sovereignty of federal and state government is very important.
Yes.
So when we look at each state, the mandates that are generalized are the only mandates that really are going to count. So the general mandate allows each state to interpret itself. When we say from sea shining sea, we know we're talking mountains, beach coasts, farmlands, very, very different populations.
Hmm.
Even though we are one nation, our populations are so diverse until you must not use a one size fit all, or you're going to infringe on people's rights.
Exactly. Ron DeSantis, your governor, who I love dearly because he believed in opening up Florida, and also Governor Kemp in Georgia, who just opened it wide open, showed a great ferocity for the people's rights. In a sense, the last election in which Governor DeSantis won, there was the issue of charter schools. And so, in that particular issue, he sided along the fact of mothers being able to choose between public and charter schools. A large majority of black women supported that. Do you support charter schools? And would you like to see vouchers and other things done throughout the rest of the country in relation to having alternatives to public school education?
I support the broadest measure possible to help families make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I work with special needs children who have IEP.
Yes.
I've worked with other children that are foster children who may or may not be able to negotiate certain things. It's much, much more important to have an open policy that allows us to prescript by child. Now, during our shutdowns and during our closure, we have to do that anyway, whether they're twins or not. You're going to have to look at each child and fundamentally work to get the very, very best out of each one of them, and they will not be the same.
Exactly.
And so I think that DeSantis has made it's a sharp call, and it's a good call for Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking young moms they want to be able to say, even if I don't have the funds, even if I'm a single parent, I want my child to have the best education too. And they should do whatever is necessary to get to that point. And so I'm looking forward to, as we go along in the next few months, and to seeing how aggressive that looks in the country. Because with these kind of good results we're getting here in Florida, it's going to look really incredible at the federal level and at the state level.
And I concur with you that especially in the most impoverished neighborhoods, there needs to be academic choice, educational choice. People need to have the same opportunities to take a bus across town and go to a principally Ivy League oriented school as the person who's being dropped off with the limo every single morning.
And if your child has the acumen, I really want to say this.
Yes.
Each child must receive the maximum that their aptitude produces. If we're going to be a great nation, a good policy is going to float every single boat. Every boat's going to come up.
Yes.
Our economics will come up. Everything will come up. So I really appreciate that question because it goes to the heart of our platform here. In Pinellas County, though, we had the notoriety of having failing schools and it being broadcast all over the nation.
Yeah.
Do you know why? Our consent judgment expired. So integration no longer mandatory. So all our split and caramel girls and boys came back home to their home schools. When they all put in one place, we could see that they were not being taught.
Wow.
We could see them all in one place. It wasn't that the school was bad. It's just that once we put them near their homes where they were all together, now we could see what the school system was not doing. And it was a travesty beyond measure.
You have your pulse on many things in Florida, in Pinellas County, exactly. and the Congressional District 13 is a viable congressional district for the upcoming elections, federal elections, with Donald Trump as the presidential candidate and Joe Biden, Democrat candidate. So I got to ask you, one of the big issues is about bringing manufacturing home to the U.S. Pharmaceutical, cars, all types of manufacturing, bringing it back home and away from China. Joe Biden would say, don't do that. Keep operations open to China and work out a trade deal that's beneficial to China. Donald Trump says, I am not a big fan of China. We need to shut off and bring everything home. Where do you side when it comes to trade with China? Do you see that this is a Cold War approaching?
We've always been in a Cold War. We just were not paying attention and would not admit that that was so.
Well said.
Now, whenever you find that someone is taking a lot of your money and you're not making any conversation regarding it. So when we start talking economics and trillions of dollars in debt, we started with 2000 November, we were in 23 trillion. In April, we were in 24 trillion. By May, they said this month we'll be in 25 trillion. If you're going to have some dealings with China, use the money from China to actually pay down the debt that we owe China. Because our economics show that Hong Kong alone was 442.9 billion just last year.
Yep.
So I'm like, if we've got these kind of juxtaposed numbers, paying down our debt should be part of the tariffs that we increase. When tariff money comes in, which begins to balance our trade so that our manufacturers have a fair playing field, that money should go to debt. The Federal Reserve should not be able to be the instrument to set our prices or to get us out of debt. It has to be the United States government. It has to be congressional. This money is coming in. Where's it going? Where's it going?
I love
that
answer, because it opens the door that Donald Trump tried to open a few months ago before the coronavirus, when he recommended Herman Cain and some other more classical liberal economists to be placed on the Federal Reserve, finding an end to the Federal Reserve, because it is a tremendous risk to the overall vitality of the American capitalist system, because it increases debt so quickly, and we can't handle all of that particular debt long term. I want you to come back to talk about that, but I got one other question for you before I have to let you go. I see, this is the type of competent person you want going to Washington. You really do. Here's the question. I'm a huge fan of fossil fuels. I love oil. If I could bathe in oil, I would do so. I love oil. And I loved it when oil was down to $1.82 a gallon during COVID-19. So, are you opposed to drilling off of the coast of Virginia and Massachusetts and California and Florida so that we can bring more oil into our country?
I am opposed to drilling off the coast of Florida no matter what. There is a text that in the scriptures that always used to throw me off. It says that if you have faith, you can say that this mountain, and that mountain would be cast into the sea. Well, off the coast of Florida, we have what they call sheer mountain. That means that the cliffs are so deep and the caverns so deep that an oil spill can never totally be cleansed. So that means the damage that could be done right next to Florida is too high. When I was listening at a regional planning council meeting a couple months ago, I looked at these soundings for our Gulf. The mountains are not like a hill that goes up and comes down. Instead, they're very sheer. They're immediate drops. And we're talking hundreds of feet, thousands of feet. So it's not just about drilling. It's about whether or not you're going to be able to protect all of the boundaries that flow into the Gulf of Mexico. And are you going to be able to protect many of those local people that have fisheries They have all
Yes.
their boating industries, tourist industries. You have to remember what percentage of our economic boom here is tourism, is fisheries. Those things are very important. And we can't lose sight of that because of oil. If there's some other things, whenever I think about anything environmental, I know that we're looking at other, whether it's hydroelectrical, solar, geothermal, wind, biomass, all those kinds of things that we talk about, right?
Yes.
We are smart enough to come up with what we can do. It's not just about finding a place where we know oil is eventually. There were 10 lives lost the last time we were drilling oil outside of Florida. Forget the massive loss of economics and the massive loss of jobs. I am not for it, no matter what.
Now, if it could be proven that you can safely place nuclear technology and oil drilling on the outskirts of Florida, way off from the beaches where it would not impact at all tourism, would you be open to considering it?
There's no such thing.
Okay.
Right now, the moratorium is 125 miles.
Yes.
And so that expires in 2022.
Yes.
I believe we have some other options, and I think we should exercise them.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen.
I know it's not popular. I'm just telling you the truth.
No, see, but that's what I love about my show. I'm not asking you to be me. I'm asking you to be you.
Listen, all I know is you seem to have a lot of fun here.
Exactly.
I love your forum.
And see, one of the things is when people come on the Exceptional Conservative Show, they already understand that I am very strict on certain things and things that I want. But that's not always what the good people of your particular division, your city, wants, your county, your region, your congressional district. And rather than to have you come on the air and tell people one thing, and I've had individuals do that, and then when they went to Washington, they were completely something different. I want you to be the same today as you are tomorrow. That's what the Word of God says. God's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I want you to be the same. And I think you are a great candidate for the Congressional District 13. How can people support your campaign?
I'm at votegriffin.us, and on Twitter we're at votegriffin2020. I want to tell you that I appreciate every single person that's in love with our region. We have a lot of people infatuated because it's beautiful here, but only a candidate that's in love with the people and that's in love with the region should be running as a representative. I'm the dark horse in this race. My name is Sheila Griffin, and I'm loving every single moment. I thank you so much for the privilege, Ken. It's been my joy.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to spend with us. We do look forward to you coming back in the next few weeks. When is your primary?
Our primary is August 18th, but our mail-in ballots start hitting July 12th. And I promise you, at 80% plus, that's our primary.
There you go. There you go. Looking forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen,
Okay.
Great choice right there. A true Christian conservative nonetheless. Even though she doesn't agree with me regarding oil. Scott Griffin. Love you. God bless you, and thank you so much for being on the air with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. You can go, and I would recommend highly, if you go to Twitter tonight, let her know that you listened to her on the show. She is a tremendous candidate with a great deal of skills, and just the type of person that you want in Washington, D.C. And maybe if I could, we're going to find a way. Maybe I can convince her, oil, the forgotten love. There you go. Oil. Think oil. No. So I'm looking forward to her coming to Washington. You can do better nowhere else than to have this young lady as your representative, Sheila Scott Griffin. Listen, we will be back with more of the best in Urban Conservative Talk. I am your host, Ken McClinton, TECN TV president as well. And we know that this is a republic. This is not a democracy. And you are the most important part of it. We are the best in urban conservative news, talk, and movies. TECN TV, the exceptionalconservativeshow.com. We'll be right back right after these messages.